I call the March 4th, 2024 meeting of the Legislative Commission on Pensions and Retirement to order. We do not have a quorum, but we will not actually be taking a vote. And so we're going to actually let Senator Pappas and Representative Frederick present their bill. We do have a quorum now. So why don't we go ahead and approve the meeting minutes first, and then we will move on to our first bill.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I move approval of the meeting minutes.
Thank you. Senator Pappas moves approval of the meeting minutes from the February 26, 2024 meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The motion does prevail, and the meeting minutes are adopted. Our next bill is Senate File 3774 from Senator Pappas and Representative Frederick on eligible positions in the MSRS Correctional Plan. Senator Pappas and Representative Frederick, if you would like, well, actually, Senator Pappas, if you could move the language.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that Senate File, I think we're just laying it over. Okay, I move that Senate File 4424 and House File to be determined be laid over for possible consideration in the omnibus bill.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. I also understand that we have a 2A amendment. Would you like to offer the 2A?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd move the 2A amendment.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. And do you want to describe the 2A amendment really
I think
quickly?
we can describe it when we describe the whole bill.
That's fine. Why don't we go ahead and adopt the 2A then? All those in favor of the 2A amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. And the motion does prevail, and the amendment is adopted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few opening comments, and then we could probably have Ms. Lincheski describe the bill as usual. This is a parity issue with the Department of Corrections, which has all of these positions included as eligible for certification by the employer. Kitchen workers are not included in the DHS section because food service had previously been contracted out and was being done by non-state employees. Food services was brought back in-house years ago, and today kitchen workers spend nearly their entire shifts in close proximity to clients who have access to sharp knives and other deadly weapons. Last year, one of their colleagues, fortunately not a kitchen worker, but unfortunately was severely assaulted and ended up getting life flighted to Duluth and will never be the same person. The client perpetrator, who saw the assault as a way to get out of treatment and back into prison, had been assigned to work in the kitchen alongside an AFSCME member who was pregnant at the time. Is that the baby?
Just confirming, President.
Working with the clients in the Minnesota Sexual Offenders Program on a daily basis can be dangerous and stressful. The workers in these added positions deserve the same retirement benefits as their counterparts working for the Department of Corrections.
Thank you, Senator Pappas. And Representative Frederick, did you have opening statement remarks, or will you save yours till the end to close?
I would just say, Madam Chair and committee members, thank you for hearing the bill. To some of the amendment language, this affects staff at the Moose Lake facility and the St. Peter facility. And some of the 2A amendment addresses a staffing change between those two facilities, where the Moose Lake facility no longer uses food service workers, but the St. Peter, where I work, still does. And so that's what that amendment did too, is it adds the food service workers back in.
Thank you, Representative Frederick. And I will actually now turn to our nonpartisan staff to have them describe the bill and the amendment. Deputy Director Sean Kelly, if you could please explain.
Thank you, Chair Herr. The bill adds the positions of baker, cook, culinary supervisor, kitchen supervisor, and food service worker to the list of Department of Human Services positions covered by the MSRS Correctional Plan, and allows employees working in these positions to transfer past service credit from the MSRS General Plan to the Correctional Plan. The Correctional Plan covers state correctional officers, supervisors, and other specified Department of Corrections and Department of Human Services employees if at least 75% of the employee's working time is in direct contact with inmates or patients. Section 352.91, subdivision 4A, sets forth a process for adding the positions eligible for correctional plan coverage. The process requires an evaluation of the position to determine if the employee meets the statutory requirements for inclusion in the correctional plan. If the employee satisfies the requirements, the Commissioner of Human Services may recommend that the position be included in the correctional plan. The Commissioner must submit the recommendation to the legislature by January 15th. This process was not followed for the bill. However, in response to questions from Commission staff, Department of Human Services staff stated in an email that a review was conducted of the positions affected by the bill, in addition to other kitchen-related position descriptions. Department of Human Services staff stated that none of the positions currently meet the requirements of the employee spending at least 75% of the employee's working time in direct contact with inmates or patients. However, in addition to the testifiers here today, Department of Human Services staff are also here to answer questions from the Commission. The remainder of my summary will be a section-by-section review of the bill. Section 1 adds the positions that I previously mentioned to the list of positions covered by the correctional plan. Section 1 is effective on the first day of the first payroll period after the date of enactment. Section 2 is an authorization to permit these employees to transfer past service credit from the MSRS general plan to the correctional plan if elected by the employee. To transfer past service credit, the employee must follow the process in section 352.955 subdivision 1. Authorization, it is likely that the employees working in these positions would not be able to transfer service credit. If the employee elects to transfer past service credit, a payment is required by the employee and the employer before the transfer may occur. The employee must pay the difference between the general plan and correctional plan employee contributions for the period. If the employee makes the payment, the employer must pay the difference between the plan's employer contributions for the period. Commission staff do not know what the potential costs of these payments might be. Section 2 is effective the day following final enactment. Thank you, Chair Hurd. That concludes my review.
Thank you, Deputy Director Kelly. And since we already did opening remarks, I'm going to actually ask to have our testifiers maybe come up to the table. And then we have two, it looks like. The first is Ethan Vogel, Legislative Director of AFSCME Council 5. If you can just identify yourself for the record and begin your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, members. My name is Ethan Vogel, and I serve as Legislative Director for AFSCME Council 5. AFSCME is a public and private sector labor union, and at Council 5, we represent more than 43,000 working Minnesotans across 248 locals and sublocals, all around the state. Within our covered bargaining units are roughly 18,000 state positions in a variety of fields and occupations, including at the state-operated forensic services in St. Peter and the Minnesota Sex Offender Program in Moose Lake and St. Peter, commonly referred to as MSOP. AFSCME members working in both of these secure settings spend their working time in very close proximity to individuals who have been civilly committed by a court to receive treatment. They are, in the case of forensic services, working with individuals who have committed serious crimes and are considered to be mentally ill and dangerous. And in the case of MSOP, AFSCME members are working with people civilly committed as a sexual psychopathic personality, sexually dangerous person, or both. I think little explanation is needed to understand that working in these settings with individuals committed for these reasons is fundamentally dangerous and mentally exhausting. And this work also protects all of our communities and our state as a whole. So I want to say thank you to the people in this room and back at the facilities who do this work every day. In recognition of the risks of this inherent trauma of the work, many employees are eligible for CERP, the Correctional Employee Retirement Program. I will skip ahead now, as not to repeat others. And the positions we're asking to be added are generally referred to as the kitchen workers. They're already included for the Department of Corrections. And my understanding of the history is that they're not included. I don't think it was ever a conscious decision made on behalf of the legislature, more so the fact that the work had been outsourced. It wasn't being done by state employees. It now is being done by state employees, and that has been the case for a very long time. I don't think the position descriptions accurately represent the work that is being done on the ground in the facilities. And so acknowledging that we have some work to do to clarify that with the department, we are definitely willing to do that. This change simply recognizes the dangerous conditions these workers endure every single day. It's long overdue. We've been waiting for this day for a long time, and we appreciate your time and consideration, and we ask for your support. And in closing, I would just like to express my gratitude towards DHS staff, towards Senator Pappas and Representative Frederick, and all of the staff and members of this commission for engaging on this important issue. And finally, I will say AFSCME is committed to engaging in possible process improvements to ensure that similar oversights are addressed in a timelier manner moving forward. Thank you, Madam Chair, and with that, I will turn it over to Megan, one of the workers.
Thank you, Mr. Vogel. And Megan Peterson is a cook with the Minnesota Sex Offender Program in Moose Lake. If you could just identify yourself for the record and begin.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Megan Peterson, and I'm a cook at the Minnesota Sex Offender Program in Moose Lake. I've been in the kitchen there for almost 6 years. I'm a member of ASME Council 5, Local 1092. In the kitchen, we work side by side with clients who are civilly committed. My guess is more than 90% of our time is working in direct contact with clients. They have immediate access to knife and other kitchen tools that could easily be used as deadly weapons to harm one another or our staff. The clients outnumber the staff in the kitchen. There can be around 20 at any given time and only a few of us kitchen workers with one or rarely two security counselors present. Assaults are common in our facility. Last year when I was pregnant with my son Arlo, one of the clients decided he had spent enough time in our treatment program. He ended up removing the motor from a rotary fan and put it in a pillowcase. He used this makeshift weapon to severely beat one of our coworkers repeatedly over the head. He was life flighted to Duluth, and he will never be the same person he was before that attack. My union brother, who was assaulted, was well liked by clients and his coworkers. This violent outburst was completely random. I didn't work with this client at that time, but the point is, serious assaults can happen to anyone and for no reason. Well, when a client decides they want to go back to prison, we're the ones at risk. I'm grateful that it wasn't me and my baby. We deserve the same retirement because we have the same risk. Please help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. And I would just like to, for those who are watching and those in the audience, our senators actually have to leave right now to go do some work on their end of it for a Senate body thing, and so we're going to let them go, but know that all of this is being recorded. You know, they have all the materials, and we can finish if Representative Frederick could stay in case there are questions, but we will continue as you all, and then you'll return after you're done with the...
We promise to come back.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I was told that Ms. Leonard, the Executive Director of MSRS, is also here to testify. If you could come up to the testifiers table.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members. Erin Leonard, the Executive Director of MSRS. MSRS is generally neutral on these bills, assuming the department certifies the 75% contact and they're covered by the plan. We don't have a strong opinion about that. To give you a sense of the individual cost associated with this bill, there's about 30 new people who could potentially be covered by the plan. The total cost ranges from $600 to $66,000. The average cost of the 8, we were unable to calculate all of them, but we calculated about 8 of the 30. The average cost for the employee is about $11,000. The average cost for the employer is around $30,000.
Thank you, Ms. Leonard. And now I will open up to any questions that members have, any comments. Representative Nadeau.
I just have a question, and maybe it's for DHS if they're here, or maybe Representative Frederick. Why?
Representative Nadeau, just real quick, I think that somebody from DHS is here. If you could maybe go up to the testifiers table. I was told someone from DHS is here. Thank you. Proceed, Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Chair Herr. Can you tell me, so the testifier just testified that they're spending 90% of their time with incarcerated populations, but DHS in your notes said that they don't meet the 75% requirement. Can you just discuss the disparity between those two statements?
Yeah, certainly. Good morning, Chair and members. My name is Cindy Jungers. I'm the Human Resources Director for Direct Care and Treatment, which is the division of DHS that covers our employees who are potentially eligible for SERP retirement. So, yes, I heard the testimony this morning. When we do our review of the positions, the very first step of that is obtaining the position descriptions for the proposed positions. And we received some of them for the bill this morning, and none of them indicate the 75% patient or client contact.
Representative Nadeau?
Thanks, Chair. Have we ever allowed another scope of work to go into the correctional plan that doesn't meet that 75% threshold?
So
Ms.
going
Jonger?
off memory, I believe our security counselors at both the Moose Lake and St. Peter facilities are not necessarily required the 75%, but all other positions to date have been.
And it looks like Representative Frederick?
Thank you, Chair. What I would say to that is that there's different parts of the statute. One part of the statute talks about how there is a 75% requirement, which is what we're talking about here. There's another part of the statute that says that's just automatic that they get it. So the security counselors that are referenced, their entire job is working with the patients in the forensics program or the clients as they're referred to in the sex offender program. But that 75% isn't required. And I also just want to highlight again that the position description is alone may not currently look like they are having that 75% contact, but I think the question then to ask is that position description under review and going to be updated? And then what would that look like if it were to reflect the current practices? I think that would be the question that I would ask too.
Thank you, Representative Frederick. Any follow-up question?
No, yes, I guess. So, thank you, Chair Herr. That being said, then if they're going to review those positions, we do have a statute that needs to be followed in order to do this. So is it fair to say that we might be a little bit premature on this?
Representative Frederick?
I think that's a great question. So what I would say is if we, from a statutorily perspective, change the law first, what that does is set the stage for those further conversations for DHS to engage in the process of updating position descriptions to work with the workers and the supervisors of those areas to make sure that the position description itself is accurate. If we do it the other way around, and let's say they get everything, and they do say that those position descriptions indicate that there is a 99% patient contact, if we don't change the law first, then that doesn't matter. Putting this statute in play first allows those conversations to happen and then make those changes right away instead of making those changes and then waiting for us as a legislative body to eventually come back to this issue. So for me, it makes sense to be able to put this in play, let the process with DHS work out, and then be able to keep moving forward.
Thank you.
Representative O'Driscoll?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of procedural questions. This is becoming before the commission because there was a change, I think I heard, in the way that food services were delivered within these facilities. They had been contracted previously, and now they're the meals and things are prepared on site, and people are getting in contact with incarcerated individuals on here. My question is, who was serving the food when it came in from the commercial provider? Was it the people from the food company, or did they hand that off to folks internally? And if it was folks internally, were they considered to be a part of the 75% threshold and covered under the enhanced retirement benefit? I don't know
I'm not
who
sure
knows
if
the
that's
answer to that question.
Representative Frederick?
Thank you, Chair. What I would say is the process on St. Peter, I can't speak to Moose Lake. I would guess that there would be similarities, but I would let others speak to that. The food would come onto campus. The campus then would go get shuttled up to the different buildings on campus, and from there, those security counselors that we were referencing earlier that are getting this, that are in the correctional plan already, would then go get those food. They would be just carts full of food, bring them back to the residential units, and then serve that food on the residential units.
Representative O'Driscoll?
And my assumption is that they would still be covered by the enhanced plan that we're looking at, the enhanced correctional worker plan, as the guards or the other supervising personnel that were there. Am I correct on that?
Representative Frederick?
Thank you, Chair. What I would, I'm not 100% sure that I'm like wrapping my head around the question, but so the security counselors who are delivering the food and have, or serve the food and have for decades are under the corrections plan, and the change in the kitchen process now is that now the kitchen staff, all of these different job classes that we're talking about, are now having that same direct contact with whether it's the sex offenders or the forensics program. And so what we're saying is because the working environment there has changed and is now more similar to like the residential side, that we're just asking that the retirement looks the same.
Any further discussion? Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And if Ms. Leonard could come back again, I just want to follow up a little bit on the cost on here. I know it's shocking to everybody on the commission that I would ask the financial questions, but it's what I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. And Ms. Leonard, you were quoting the cost for the different employees and the different employment groups. My assumption is that those dollars that you were quoting included additional contribution and interest that would be needing to be accrued to make the participant fully vested in the plan, as we would do with others in this situation. I just want to make sure that I understood those numbers correctly.
Ms. Leonard.
Yep, so Madam Chair, members, that is correct. That is the calculation based on current statute is contributions plus interest, the difference.
Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Ms. Leonard, if someone chooses not to, for whatever reasons, go back and pay back that years of service, would they be then under a combined service annuity between the previous plan and the new plan?
Ms. Leonard.
Sure, so Madam Chair and Representative O'Driscoll, yes, they're currently covered by the General Employees Retirement Plan, and so their future service, if they chose not to pay that prior service contribution difference, their future service would be in the correctional plan, their past service would remain in general, and then they would be under the combined service laws.
Representative O'Driscoll.
Final question, Madam Chair. The costs for the employer portion of this, where's the money going to come from to make that part of the employer contribution whole?
Ms. Leonard. I don't know if you would know that or maybe one of the other testifiers.
So Madam Chair, members, typically the cost is paid by the agency. How the agency funds that additional cost is not something I'd be aware of.
Representative Frederick, do you have any comments on that? Okay, that will be something for us to maybe look into and make sure that we. Ms. Junger, would you be able to comment on that?
I could not answer the financial questions.
Thank you. Good questions, Representative O'Driscoll.
Yeah, just is there anybody here from corrections who might be able to speak to that issue today, since we do have it before us? If not, we'll pick it up again at some point in the future.
And we will be laying this bill over,
Yeah.
so I think it would be great if you want to connect with Representative Frederick or
Thank you.
Senator Pappas, and we can get some of those questions answered. Representative Berg.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the authors of this. I really appreciate it. Having met with several members of sort of the group that we're talking about, I can see you in the audience. I appreciate you coming to my office and being vulnerable and sharing your stories. And as we heard one of our testifiers today say that there are more of the clients in the kitchen oftentimes than the actual kitchen workers, which makes it exceptionally dangerous. I understand that we're trying to give them responsibility and a way to contribute. But I think when we look at the risk that these particular workers are under, I think from a moral standpoint, this is the right thing to do. And you know, as a 20-year labor leader, I'm always going to talk about the morality of taking care of our workers, but I just really want to thank Representative Frederick for bringing this bill forward and for the committee for considering it, and I hope we do the right thing.
Thank you, Representative Berg. And I will just have one quick question for Ms. Junger. I just want to actually ask if you could explain whether the process for approving adding new positions to the MSRS correctional plan was followed for this particular bill. Ms. Junger.
Not entirely, so we did not receive any information by January 15th. We did receive some requests for, like I said, some of the positions, at least from Moose Lake, and those are the ones we reviewed and did not see the 75%, at least currently.
Thank you, Ms. Junger. And so is there any further discussion on this bill? If not, Representative Frederick, would you like to offer any closing comments?
Thank you, Chair. I would just say that about 18 years ago, I started in DHS as a security counselor working with the same population that we've been describing all day. I know the threats and the risk and the fear of sometimes when simply showing up to work and what that looks like. The situation that described where a client up in Moose Lake decided to attack a staff member, some of the statements that he made in court were that it didn't matter who showed up to work that day. There was nothing personal about that individual. It was just the person whose day and shift it was, and that's all the more there was to it. And so these people show up to work, and they have a right to the same kind of retirement package for the other people that are doing similar work. So I would just ask the committee to support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Frederick. And so Senate File 4424 is laid over for possible inclusion in the Omnibus Pension and Retirement Bill. Our next bill on the agenda, on our agenda is another Representative Frederick bill, and so, and with Senator Frentz, but Senator Frentz is not back, and so we're going to let Representative Frederick move forward with this. I will go ahead and move the bill language since Representative Frederick is not part of our committee. And so I move to lay over House File 3930 and Senate File 3761 for possible inclusion into our Omnibus Pension and Retirement Bill. Thank you, Representative Frederick, for being here today again to talk to this bill. And actually, I'm going to have our Deputy Director, Sean Kelly, talk through the technical pieces of the bill first, and then we'll have you do your opening comments. Deputy Director Kelly.
Thank you, Chair Herr. This bill is similar to the last bill before the commission. And the background information I gave for that bill applies equally to this one. As a result, I will try not to repeat myself. The bill adds the position of music therapist to the list of Department of Human Services positions covered by the MSRS correctional plan, and similarly allows employees working as a music therapist to transfer past service credit from the MSRS general plan to the correctional plan. The statutory process previously mentioned was not followed for this bill. However, the Department of Human Services staff conducted a review of the music therapist position description after the bill was introduced. Department of Human Services staff, in an email to commission staff, stated that the music therapist position meets the statutory requirements for retirement coverage by the correctional plan. And the rest of my summary will be a section-by-section review of the bill. Section 1 adds the position of music therapist to the list of positions covered by the correctional plan and is effective the first day of the first payroll period after the date of enactment. Section 2 is an authorization to allow employees working as a music therapist to transfer past service credit from the MSRS general plan to the correctional plan if elected by the employee. This authorization is the same as in the previous bill, and if the employee elects to transfer past service credit, a payment is required from the employee and the employer before the transfer may occur. Section 2 is effective the day following final enactment. Thank you, Chair Herr. That concludes my review.
Thank you, Deputy Director Sean Kelly. And Representative Frederick, would you like to offer some opening remarks for the bill?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would just, again, thank the committee for being here. I don't know how you do 8:30 in the morning, but I would thank the committee for hearing this bill. What I would say is a lot of the similar things that we talked about in the last bill apply to this bill, except I would say the position is very important, but it's the bill as a whole is much smaller because right now, as far as I'm aware, you're looking at the only musical therapist in the state of Minnesota sitting up here at the table, and so the impact on this is going to be smaller than what we were talking about in the previous bill. But what it would do is saying in future years after retirement, it does set that position as a whole set up for them to continue to be in corrections. So I would ask the committee to support the bill.
Thank you, Representative Frederick. And it looks like we have 3 testifiers here. The first is Tanner Fritzinger, Political Coordinator, Minnesota Association of Professional Employees. If you could identify yourself and then begin your testimony.
Yeah, Tanner Fritzinger, Political Coordinator at the Minnesota Association of Professional Employees. Thank you, Madam Chair, and the rest of the Commission for taking the time to hear this legislation today. House File 3930 and Senate File 3761 is a straightforward piece of legislation that would add the music therapist position to the list of additional Department of Human Services personnel eligible for the Correctional Employee Retirement Plan, or CERP, while also allowing the position to purchase past service credit. I'm not going to repeat a bunch of what's already been said, so I'll keep it brief. There's currently only one music therapist in all of DHS's direct care and treatment programs, Ava Olin, and we're fortunate to have them here to testify today. Back in November, MAPE requested to meet with DHS to convene a meeting reviewing the music therapist position and Ms. Olin's eligibility for the correctional employee retirement plan. That has not happened, but it does sound like that has happened, but we were not aware of it. That pretty much concludes what I've got to say. So with your permission, I'd like to turn it over to Ava.
Thank you. Our next testifier is Ava Olin, music therapist, board certified. Please identify yourself for the record and begin.
Chair Herr and members of the commission, my name is Ava Olin, and I work for the Department of Human Services as a music therapist at the St. Peter Regional Treatment Facility. I want to thank you for the opportunity to testify on House File 3930 and Senate File 3761, which would allow music therapists to qualify for CERP if they meet the current requirements in the statute. As a music therapist, I provide clinical and evidence-based music therapy and interventions to accomplish musical and non-musical goals for the patients at the St. Peter Regional Treatment Facility. My responsibilities include accepting referrals for music therapy services, completing assessments on those referrals, and implementing treatment based on the assessments and availability and schedules. Some of the things music therapy can help achieve in mental health settings are decreased anxiety and agitation, learning and practicing new coping skills, successful and safe emotional release, among other great benefits. In the 4.5 years I've been there, I've noticed a positive reception of my work between patients and staff. Patients in multiple different groups have commented on how music therapy sessions have helped them. I frequently hear this is my favorite group, or I always feel so much better after music therapy. Currently, I am the only music therapist at the Regional Treatment Facility and provide services throughout the campus, including the Forensic Nursing Home and our North Campus location. A typical day for me starts at 8 a.m., finishes at 6, and every day includes individual and group music therapy sessions. All other hours of the day are used for completing assessments, meetings, and learning new patient-preferred music. Being the only music therapist at the facility, I feel I am constantly towing the line between providing as much music therapy as possible while also being able to complete clear and concise documentation. I could easily fill a 40 hours of my work week with music therapy sessions, but then you would have a very burned out music therapist who's not able to complete all the responsibilities of the job. Allowing the music therapist in direct care and treatment to qualify for CERP helps ensure that therapeutic and rehabilitative positions are treated equitably for the purposes of retirement if they meet the qualifications under the statute. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Olin. And then we will go to our last testifier, Ms. Erin Leonard, and then we can move to questions.
Good morning again. Erin Leonard, Executive Director of MSRS. We did do the calculation for Ms. Olin, and her cost to transfer her prior service would be $11,503, and the cost for the employer is $33,835 if the purchase is made by August 1st. So if it gets prolonged, it would be more expensive, but we did an August 1st date for these calculations.
Thank you, Ms. Leonard. Ms. Leonard, if you could just stay up there too, just in case there are any questions. I will move to member questions. Members, do we have any questions? Representative O'Driscoll. Oh, Nadeau, sorry, Representative Nadeau.
We look very similar. It's a mistake everyone makes.
I've done it multiple times on my apologies, Representative Nadeau.
I apologize to Representative O'Driscoll as well. I don't think I really care about this that much. I'm curious, however, there's a number of modalities that are being developed that are dealing with therapy for people struggling with behavioral and mental health. I've done a little bit of research on some of those, and the evidence isn't conclusive. With music therapy, it's far more effective in female populations than it is male. But I think my question is, and I don't care who answers it. There's a number of modalities, and why are we just doing music? Why not art? Why not yoga therapists? Why not equine therapists? All of those modalities are being tested and used, and why are we limiting this to music? And is it just because we only have one music therapist?
Representative Frederick.
Thank you, Chair. What I would say is that this, so first I just want to say that this bill isn't there to address different therapies used at the facility, and some of the ones that you just outlined actually are being used at the facility too. So that I just want to make sure that it's clear that this is just looking to address what Ava does, what music therapy does look like in St. Peter. For those that aren't necessarily familiar with the facility, when you think of the spectrum of mental health services in the state of Minnesota, St. Peter is the end of the line. right? That is where people who have severe and persistent mental illness go when there is no other space in this entire state for them to go. No one has the capability of serving them. And the music therapy portion is just that one portion of the services and therapy that is provided there. I can personally attest that I have seen her at work and singing right alongside the patients that are there. Again, I just kind of want to circle back that we can have those discussions about what therapies there actually there has been a horse on campus, just so you know. This is about music therapy and the work that she does. So I just want to make sure that the committee stays grounded in that too.
Thank you, Representative Frederick. Any other member questions? Otherwise, I have a couple. Thank you. So Representative Frederick, I think my question is along the lines of what Representative Nadeau stated, but I look at it from a little bit different perspective. So can somebody just share with me, there are many other types of therapists there. Are those therapists already able to participate in this plan? Representative Frederick.
Yes, Madam Chair, there are. Sorry, I meant to say that as well. So there are many other job positions, whether they're behavior analysts or different level of clinicians, some of which have much more of that direct patient care, like behavior analysts would be the one, that yes, they already are in corrections. Some that don't have that level of direct care or direct interactions may not be, but as you heard the statement from DHS that this would qualify because there is that enough, it reaches that 75% threshold to qualify. So I guess the answer would be yes and.
Thank you, Representative Frederick. And I guess the reason why I asked that question is that it is true that there are new, like Representative Nadeau said, there are new therapies that are being developed all the time. I actually am I like music therapy quite a bit. I have a niece who is studying it to actually work with elders who are with memory loss, and it's very effective for that. And so I would like to maybe for you to consider in the future maybe other types of therapists that could be used in ways to be helpful with patients. And so if there was a way to write this so that it wasn't just specific to music therapists, but therapy that actually address this type of, like this type of interaction, I would be open to that. And so that was just my comment. I would just want to make sure if somebody is a therapist and they're interacting regardless of which kind of therapy they're doing, that they all be treated the same, because we are using tools, like you said, in facilities in which there might not be other tools available left to support them. And so that's just my comment for that. Do we have any additional comments? All right. Well, seeing that, let's see here. I think DHS, I just wanted to make sure that to confirm that is Ms. Junger still here? Ms. Junger, can you just? And Ms. Junger, my question is just maybe in general so that this commission is aware, because I think that maybe most people don't know. Can you just maybe talk through the process of what it means to approve adding new positions to the MSRS correctional plans? Because I know I asked that question in the previous bill, but I don't think that that our members actually know what the normal process is, so that can just help us inform us as future bills go forward. If you could just explain that, Ms. Junger.
Yeah, good morning again, Chair and members. I'd be glad to. Within DHS, so as outlined in the statute under 4A, we do have a process. The Department of Human Services has a policy that includes a section on how new positions can be added to the Correctional Early Retirement Program. As part of that, there's an initial service date form that the employees fill out. They work with their supervisor to have an accurate and correct position description. That position description and any other pertinent information gets sent to us with the form that they complete. That is the initial review. And if the position description appears to meet that, then there might be some observations, some questions asked of supervisors or others in proximity, because there are some additional criteria per the DHS policy that needs to be met. And then following that, we have a review committee that gets together and looks at all the findings if the position is recommended to move forward. And then that committee makes the final decision.
Thank you, Ms. Junger. And so when someone does submit to be part of this process, does DHS then take that up within a certain time frame, or is there, if you could just maybe talk to that a little bit?
Certainly, Madam Chair. It happens really infrequently. So this is the first time we've received any of the forms in several years. Yeah, our intent for our employees is always to be very timely and review things efficiently, but also making sure we're being completely thorough.
Thank you, Ms. Younger. Seeing that there is no further discussion, I will invite Representative Frederick and Vice Chair Frentz to offer any closing comments.
Nothing for me, Madam Chair. Thank you, members, for hearing the bill and considering it, and thank you to all the staff at these facilities for whom this bill is designed to benefit. Thanks to DHS also.
Representative Frederick.
I would just say, same thing, where I appreciate the committee's time, and to your point, Chair Hurd, that if there are more positions too, even if they are different types of therapies being provided, that I agree with you, that we need to make sure that those are added as well. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. House File 3930 and Senate File 3736 is laid over for possible inclusion in the Omnibus Pension and Retirement Bill. Thank you very much. Our next bill is from Representative Moller, and it is seeking to allow employees to be added to the Secure Choice Retirement Program. Welcome to the commission, Representative Moller. Should wait till you get there to welcome you to the commission. It's a long walk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's my first time appearing in front of the commission, so good to see you all.
Thank you, and this is a great commission to be in front of, so great members asking great questions. And so seeing that Representative Moller is not a member of our commission, I will move that House File 4248 be recommended to pass and be incorporated into the Omnibus Pension and Retirement Bill. I will have our nonpartisan staff explain the bill. Executive Director Susan Lancheski, if you could go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Hurd. Good morning. My name is Susan Lancheski. I'm the Executive Director of the Commission. House File 4248 amends two statutes in Chapter 187, which establishes and governs the Minnesota Secure Choice Retirement Program. You may all recall that during the 2023 legislative session, the Commission considered and approved a bill that established this new program. Briefly, the program will require all private sector employers in the state of Minnesota that employ 5 or more employees to deduct a percentage of pay from each of their employees' paychecks and transmit the deduction to the state for deposit in an individual retirement account, an IRA, in the name of the employee. The individual accounts then will be invested by the State Board of Investment. Employees will be able to access their accounts to fund retirement. The bill focuses on eligibility to participate in the program. An individual must participate in the program, but can later opt out if the individual is a covered employee. A covered employee is a person who is employed by a covered employer that I just described, and who satisfies other criteria that may be established by the Secure Choice Board of Directors. The Commission and the Commission's Executive Committee has dealt with the Board of Directors of the program in previous meetings. One of the board's duties, which is relevant here, is to decide whether to allow other individuals who are not covered employees to participate in the program. Such individuals would include independent contractors and employees of entities with fewer than 5 employees. HF 4248 adds a new category of employee called Home and Community-Based Services Employees to the definition section, and amends another statute to require the board to permit these employees to participate in the program within 6 months of opening the program. This amendment of the statute, in effect, removes the board's discretion with regard to this category of employees who would not otherwise be considered covered employees, and requires the board to open the program to permit participation by these employees. I will defer to Representative Moller with regard to a definition of these employees. Page 2 of my memo provides a definition of these employees as well from one of our House research staff who has expertise on this topic. The bill has 2 sections, both of which are effective on the day after final enactment. Section 1 adds the new definition for home and community-based services employees to the definition section. Section 2 requires the board to allow these employees to participate in the program within 6 months of opening the program. It is important to note that while the board is required to open the program to these individuals, nothing in current law or this bill requires these individuals to participate in the program. The bill simply gives them the opportunity to participate if they wish to do so. There is an amendment that I can briefly describe. I'm not sure if it's in your materials.
It's not.
Okay. So if I might, I can read the amendment. It simply adds at the end of the definition, simply that this definition applies only to this chapter and does not create any other legal rights or obligations under state or federal law. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Director Linchewski. And Lisa is passing around a copy of the amendment, and it was posted, but you will be getting a copy. And so I'm going to move to adopt the A1 amendment. I'm going to wait till you all get it, just so you can see. And maybe we'll let Representative Moller, actually, if you want to do opening comments, and then we'll move the A1 to adopt it. That way we can get it to everybody.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. So I had the pleasure of working with my constituent, Lynn McDonald, a couple years ago when I was first elected on some issues surrounding consumer-directed community supports. Lynn will explain her story, but she's a caregiver for adult children with disabilities. And so we were able to work successfully and make some changes to the CDCS laws, like I said, several years ago. But then Lynn came back to me and said that because of how DHS had a new classification for employees like Lynn, how that intersected with federal law meant that Lynn and other family caregivers, particularly spouses and parents, were unable to qualify then for Social Security benefits. And this was a real issue, and she can talk about that in more detail for people like her who are serving their loved ones. So this was such a complicated matter because it was sort of how state law combined with federal law. And so we tried many different avenues to see if we could make a change. Of course, federally, it would require an act of Congress, so that wasn't going to be successful. And as I was sitting in committee last year and Chair Becker-Finn brought her bill for secure choice, a light bulb went off. And I thought, oh, this sounds like such a great idea. I wonder if Lynn and others like her would be able to be eligible for this retirement program. It would really help solve one of the problems that was created a few years ago. So that's why I came forward with this idea, and now we have support from the Minnesota Council on Disability, AARP, the ARC Minnesota, Minnesota Disability Law Center, and the Legal Services Advocacy Project. It's cost neutral, and it's a policy-only solution, and really thankful that you gave it a hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Moller. And members, have you had a chance to look at the 1A amendment? And is there any discussion on the 1A amendment? If not, Senator Pappas.
I'd move the 1A amendment.
Thank you, Senator Pappas moves the 1A amendment. All those in favor of adopting the 1A amendment, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. And the motion prevails, and the 1A amendment is adopted. Thank you. Why don't we go ahead, we'll go back to the House File 4248 as amended, and it looks like we have one testifier, Ms. Lynn McDonald. If you want to go ahead and identify yourself for the record and then begin your testimony.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair and members. My name is Lynn McDonald, and I live in Shoreview. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of House File 4248 and to Representative Moller for her leadership as the chief author of this important bill. I'm the mother and full-time caregiver for my 2 adult children with disabilities, and I live in Ramsey County. When DHS switched to the payroll model in 2018, parent and spouse caregivers were barred from paying into Social Security. This created a number of serious problems for us. Not being able to pay in greatly reduces our Social Security benefits at retirement. And it increases our Medicare premiums when we become eligible for Medicare. Each year that we do not pay in also decreases the number of work credits many of us had accumulated prior to 2018 until we reach the point of not being eligible for disability. In my case, I will have lost all of my work credits by 2026. If I become disabled and unable to work during or after 2026, it will put me and my children in financial jeopardy. While correcting these issues will take an act of Congress, like Rep. Moller just discussed, Secure Choice provides some relief from these burdens It provides an option and allows caregivers like me to participate in a managed retirement program. Secure Choice would allow us the opportunity to create and grow our savings for retirement. In addition, as we all continue to struggle with the critical shortage of support workers, Secure Choice provides an attractive benefit for people considering caregiving as a career option. So that is all. Thank you for all your time and consideration, and thank you for serving this community.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. Members, do you have any questions? Any discussion? Representative O'Driscoll first. Oh, you want Representative Doe to go first? All right, Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Chair Herr. I think this is just a clarifying question, and thank you, Representative Moller, for bringing this. I think this is, I've always supported this, and I think this is a good expansion. Starting on line 2.3 to basically 2.5, I'm just wondering, the language is a little bit confusing to me, and I'm wondering if it looks like it's creating a window that within 6 months of opening the program, the board must allow these employees to open to enroll. I feel like I'm reading that wrong, but I want to make sure that it's not a window.
Representative Moller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for the question. If I could turn it over to Director Lashinsky to explain that, that would be helpful.
Director Lynchesky.
Thank you, Chair Herr, Representative Nadeau, Representative Moller. This just requires the board to open the program to allow these individuals to access the program during the first 6 months of the program. So it'll just be, the board was able to do this anyway, but this now requires this to happen with regard to this category of employees. So it's not a window. It just says within 6 months of opening the program, these people have to be allowed to then be in the program, and that would go on indefinitely for as long as the program exists.
Representative Nadeau.
Thank you. And just one other follow-up on line 2.1. What's the significance of changing that shall to a must?
Representative Moller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, I'm going to ask staff to answer that question.
Director Lynchesky.
Thank you, Chair Herr, Representative Nadeau, Representative Moller. The revisor's office is just routinely changing shalls to musts. It's something they've been doing for the last few years, and so whenever we see a shall, we change it to a must.
Perfect. Thank you, Chair.
Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Ms. Lynchesky, I understand what we're trying to do here, and I don't have any real opposition to the concept. I just want to make sure that we don't have any conflict or come back later under federal law on this. So if we can just kind of walk through for my benefit and the benefit of others perhaps who have the same question that I do. In this situation, who is the employer or who is the payer of the wages and benefits in a situation like we're talking about that's covered under this bill? Do we know?
Director Lynchesky.
Thank you, Chair Herr. Representative O'Driscoll, if I could, I'd like to turn it over to Representative Moller. She definitely has the expertise.
Representative Moller.
Madam Chair, I hope she doesn't say Taylor Swift.
Representative Moller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the employer is the person with the disability, and the employee is the caregiver.
Representative O'Driscoll.
And the reason I ask that question is the way that the plan is set up for Secure Choice right now is an employer who does not have a qualified plan is to automatically enroll their employees into that plan, and the employee can opt out of it. I'm just wondering how that provision in the Secure Choice law is going to sync up with this situation? Is it going to be, in this case, Ms. McDonald would need to initiate that on her own? And do we have any issues with her not being the quote-unquote bona fide employer in that situation? Plus, and I'll just throw this out as a second part of the question, maybe Ms. Lynchesky can help us with this. If you don't have Social Security, that's one way to show that it is earned income, which is one of the requirements under law to be able to defer money into Secure Choice, 401k, or other kinds of plans. I don't want us to create a problem that we have to come back and fix in the future. One and done is usually the way I like to do business. So I know I put a lot out there. Pick it apart as you've got information and can help me. Thank you.
Director Lynchesky.
Chair Herr, Representative O'Driscoll, the program is really in the, very initial stages. So a lot of these questions will be addressed, but it is possible to allow anybody who even just is getting 1099 income to contribute. The program is intended to allow those folks to contribute money after-tax money and have it be then put into an IRA, a Roth IRA, and invested then at State Board of Investment. But there's a lot of details here that need to be worked out by the board. And, down the road, I think that will be the case. As for Social Security versus, what's going on here, no idea how that interaction will, I'm guessing there's some preemption going on with what's happening with the DHS and all. So I really don't know.
Representative Moller, did you have any additional comments to that?
Yeah, I'll just add a couple of things. I mean, Lynn works with, there's a fiscal agent who does help with all of the payroll and everything. So I don't know if that sort of addresses the first part of your question. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that.
Thank you, Representative Moller. And I would just add that, as Director Linczewski stated, the Secure Choice Board was just, the group was finally, it was just put together, and I think have they convened their first meeting yet? And so, Director Leonard is on that along with Jill Schertz. And so I would encourage that members, I think that's a really great question, Representative O'Driscoll, and maybe that we can work with the board and providing some of these questions to them as they work out the details and the processes. And I would also recommend Chair Moller, if to maybe work with them as well to ensure that we implement this correctly. I'll let Chair Moller answer, and then I'll go to Senator Nelson. Chair Moller, Representative Moller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yep, I'm happy to do that. I also just wanted to note for the questions about intersection with federal law, the amendment that we just adopted came from the disability community because they were wanting to make sure that this issue wasn't going to have a negative impact either. So that amendment that we put on was precisely from that community to just make it clear that this definition that we're applying here only applies in this scenario and doesn't change anything else.
Representative, last question, I'll go to Senator Nelson.
I just wanted to kind of clarify on that point. Representative Moller, what I'm trying to accomplish is so that persons in the situation of Ms. McDonald don't start contributing, and then the IRS comes back, lickety split 5 to 7 years later and goes, you weren't supposed to be able to do that. Those are ineligible funds. Here's your penalty, and here's this, because she doesn't need that, and no one else in this situation needs that. And that's why I'm trying to figure out how we make sure that we don't have colliding state and federal law on here. And if it's Social Security is being paid, it's really easy to go, yep, there you go. It's earned income. We don't have any issue on that. And then the 1099 issue, it's like that's gross income, and that's not net income, and they're going to have to figure out how much is eligible to go on those kinds of things. But I digress.
Thank you, Representative O'Driscoll. Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My questions are kind of along the same line. One, I applaud what you're doing, and the parents as well. I've been a champion of the disability community and home and community-based services, so highly supportive, and I understand why this is important and needed. My only somewhat caution, or no, I shouldn't say caution, questions, outstanding questions still, and I understand there's a lot of them. It would be very helpful for two things. One, it would be incredibly helpful to get some sort of, I should not say permission, but some sort of guidance from the federal government and how this is going to impact Social Security, how all this works. On the Health and Human Services side, one time it took 3 rounds of legislation. Each time the feds had weighed in saying this will work, and we did the exact wording that they said, but then again, oh, guess what, it didn't. So I just think it would behoove us in any way possible, I'm sure Director Linczewski might have a way to do that, to get as much feedback as we can from the federal government on how this is going to affect participants now and in the future, of course, until they change their minds on something. And then lastly, kind of the same thing, I think it'd be really helpful to hear from the State Board of Investment and how this might impact their work, what type of scope we might be looking at as far as increases, potential numbers. I think all those are things that would just be helpful as this moves forward, but I remain highly supportive of the concept and am just looking for a few more details.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. And I did just confirm with Director Linczewski that we are collecting these questions and we'll be providing them to the board so that they can work through the details of this. And it might be a great topic for us to bring them in front of us once they have these processes and procedures put into place so that they can walk us through how all these things will interact together. So I really appreciate the discussion today. Is there any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, Representative Moller, would you like to offer any closing comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members, for the great questions you asked and for the discussion, and happy to continue to work on this and work with you to get some answers to those questions as we move forward. It's a great bill, and want to thank my constituent Lynn for continuing to come to me with issues and trying to look for solutions to help her and people in her situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Moller. And I do renew my motion that House File 4248 be recommended to pass and be incorporated into the omnibus pension and retirement bills. All those in favor?
As amended?
I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, it should be as amended.
Oh, as amended, you're absolutely right, Senator Pappas. So I renew my motion that House File 4248 as amended be recommended to pass and be incorporated into the omnibus pension and retirement bill. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. The motion prevails, and the House File 4248 is recommended to pass and will be incorporated into the omnibus pension and retirement bill. Our final bill is a technical, is it? Okay. Our final bill is technical and other changes related to the Secure Choice Retirement Program. I will invite Senator Pappas to move the language before us.
Madam Chair, I would move that House File 4270 and Senate File 43819 be recommended to pass and incorporated into the omnibus pension bill.
Thank you, Senator Pappas, and I will have our nonpartisan staff explain the bill. Executive Director Susan Luncheski, you can explain House File 4270 and Senate File 4319.
Thank you, Chair Herr. House File 4270, Senate File 4319 also amends the 2023 legislation that established the Secure Choice Program. The bill amends 3 provisions in Chapter 187 and a 2023 session law regarding interim support for the Board of Directors until an executive director can be hired to run the day-to-day implementation of the program. Commission staff has been assisting with startup tasks as required by the 2023 legislation. In the course of that work, we've identified the need for certain amendments to the new laws and have worked with the authors to prepare the bill. The bill has 4 sections. Section 1 expands the types of individuals who will be eligible for 1 board seat. This is the seat that's designated to be filled by a small business owner. We had some trouble getting enough applicants for that seat, and we also heard from a nonprofit exec who was very interested in this. So Section 1 adds small business executive and nonprofit executive to the individuals eligible to fill this seat. The governor fills that seat, and the governor's staff has been supportive of this change. Section 2 gives the board the additional authority to appoint an interim executive director and delegate its authority to that interim director to hire staff. Subject to the board discretion, we anticipate that an interim director will be needed to prepare and issue an RFP to retain an executive search firm for the purpose of hiring a sort of permanent executive director and assist the board in the process of interviewing and appointing this individual. This provision is retroactively effective to January 1, 2024. Section 3 deletes an erroneous reference to employer contributions on line 2.24. The program does not permit employer contributions and cannot permit them pursuant to federal law. Section 4 eliminates the requirement that the commission executive director serve in a dual capacity as both the commission executive director and the interim executive director of the program. That is me. As a full-time employee of the legislature, it is not possible to serve both as a part-time employee of an executive branch program and do my job for the commission. This provision is retroactively effective to January 1, 2024. Those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Luncheski. Senator Pappas, would you like to offer any opening comments?
Madam Chair, it's really just some technical corrections, so I think that Ms. Luncheski explained it very well.
Perfect. And are there any testifiers to testify in this bill?
No.
No testifiers, and thank you. Then, members, any questions for Senator Pappas or Director Luncheski? Seeing that there are no questions. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make a comment, especially since, as Secure Choice was making its way through the legislative process last session, some of the strongest concerns that we had heard were from small business owners and particular groups like the NFIB. And so I guess I'm disappointed to hear that the governor wasn't, able to find a small business owner who'd be willing to serve in this capacity. And I think that is an important voice to have on there, just given the opposition that some small business owners had to this bill last year and being another mandate that was put onto them. And so I would still have a preference that we have a small business owner that's a part of this work.
Thank you, Senator Rasmussen. And Director Lanchewski, do we know some of the challenges that why we couldn't get a small business onto this board?
Thank you, Chair Herr and Senator Rasmussen. We tried everything. I mean, we reached out, worked with the governor's office. We went to a number of associations to try to get more applicants. We did then finally get an applicant just a few hours before the governor appointed that person. So we do have a small business owner who's on the board. But in 2 years' time, that board seat will then be open again. So this expands it. There was a nonprofit executive who really spoke up on this topic and felt that he could bring a small business perspective. So that's the point of adding this additional category. So yeah, we tried everything to get more applicants. So.
Senator Rasmussen, any follow-up? Okay, thank you. I know that sometimes board appointments are very difficult. I think a lot of people want to participate, and it's a challenge then to actually get them to apply and be a part of this. So it would be great if we could continue to have that, but maybe giving a little bit of leeway in case recruitment is difficult, I think is helpful. So I appreciate the technical piece to open this up. Any further, Representative O'Driscoll?
Madam Chair, just was wondering, and if I'm catching you off guard on this, I apologize. We can delay it. But any idea what the rest of the session looks like for the commission? We've been doing an awful lot of work lately. We don't have any money, so a lot of those financial requests may have to be put on the shelf until a future date. But we've been kind of having our theme days and stuff, and looks like we're probably getting closer to the 50% or halfway point. Am I correct on that? Maybe you can just give us some background.
Sure. And Representative, could we maybe vote on this bill, move it forward, and then we can talk about sort of where we are, or is this pertaining to this particular piece of the bill? Do you want me to, can I answer it? Can we just finish this particular bill?
Yeah, maybe that could be the wrap-up. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
That's perfect. Okay, so then seeing that there is no further discussion on this bill, Senator Pappas, do you want to renew your motion?
Madam Chair, I move that House File 4270, Senate File 4319 be recommended to pass and incorporated into the omnibus pension bill.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying nay. The motion does prevail, and House File 4270 and Senate File 4319 is recommended to pass and will be incorporated into the Omnibus Pension and Retirement Bill. And to Representative O'Driscoll's question, very good question, Representative O'Driscoll. We have sort of the next few weeks planned out as to what we'll be bringing forward to the commission. But you are correct, we do not have targets yet, and so hence we are laying over bills that could potentially have any kind of dollar amount attached to it. And we will hopefully, our hope is to wrap up the pension work a little bit sooner than third deadline. And so I think does that answer your question? Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, that concludes our business for today. And members, our next commission hearing will be on Monday, March 11th. We plan to consider legislation related to para. Seeing no further business in front of this committee, this meeting is adjourned.